Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Stock and Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Thursday, June 27th. We've got one more trading day to go. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So look at the green on the screen today. Some nice performance today out of number one, the small caps showed up today. They were up 1%. Qs, no slouch there. Another positive day, up 25 basis points, and SPY up 17 basis points. So again, like the movements within those groups, within those major indices have been very, very tight price action this week. Lots of consolidation, but you look under the hood and there is a lot of movement taking place. For example, Exhibit A, the semis, which were red hot, obviously for the last couple weeks, cool down. Now down, I think 4 out of the last 5 days. I think also down 5 out of the last 6 days. So, I think a lot of people thought, oh, if NVIDIA goes down, the market's going to get wrecked and so on and so forth. It's going to be really nasty to the downside. And what that has not happened. And what has happened has been this rotation away from the semiconductors, profit taking, right? Quite normal when stocks rip to the upside. Institutions generally take some profits, and then they kind of rebalance. They move into something else. What have they moved into? Well, look at what software stocks have done. IGV was really a strong day for software today across the board. IGV up 2%. Cyber stocks up really nice, and that's where I spent some focus try to focus on that group, up 2.4%. So you look at that group, the software, and the exact opposite, up 4 of the last 5 days. So, again, sometimes that conventional thinking, like, oh, NVIDIA goes down, the market's gonna, that's gonna bring all of this, the Qs down and the market down. Nope, that's not what has happened at all. There's been a lot of rotation, and hence Qs, basically having a little bit of upside trajectory, but a lot of rotation going on, because not just software names, but also, some of the bigger names in the index. You look at the grade 8 today and look at how they finished for the day. All in the green except for that one red name there is NVIDIA. Everything else finished positive for the day, including, the star has been Amazon. Really nice to kind of get that trade. One of the things that I wanted to talk about too is position size, right? I'm going to go. So let's start with the indices for a second. All right, so let's bring up the S&P chart. Again, it's been very tight consolidation all week long. And I have to say, the week is not over, of course, and tomorrow is a complete wild card. But this for a seasonally weak week at the end of the last week of June, I have to say, like, this is not bad, right? And obviously, again, a lot of rotation under the hood, but that's what the S&P has done, slightly positive for the week. We'll go over to the Qs. And both of these have the 80% rule is active because we dipped outside of the value or dipped back in, right? So this one again, had a little bit more of volatility this week, but really not much. And pretty steady. Well, not steady, but it's a little bit of whipsaw action. But the trajectory has been up since the beginning of the week. Also, looking at this daily chart here, right? It looks pretty decent, right? I mean, we got remember again, something that I've been pointing out in these end of day videos is how overbought the Qs got. 82 RSI. So that's been, the price action has basically burned off those overbought levels and has been grinding higher a little bit back above that 5-period moving average. Both of those, the Qs and the S&P back above the 5-period moving average. I mentioned IWM. I'll talk about this for all of 5 seconds. Just continuing to kind of go sideways there, still below the value area for the month. But we have one more day of the trading month, and then we'll be in July, and that 203 level will be interesting to watch to see. But look at the flat 200-day moving average there. Also, what has not been, has been kind of left out of this rally too is the mid caps. They really haven't done much either. All right, so that's what's going on there. We might as well, I like to bring up these every couple of days, but look at the RSP, right? Again, just kind of gives you a sense that really the strength has been in the larger names. If you equally weight that S&P, it's gone flat. Also looking at the equally weighted NASDAQ, a little bit better, but still weaker than the Qs themselves, as the bigger companies have had more influence as they normally do, but they've gained more than the average name in the queues. All right. So I mentioned I would talk a little bit about Amazon, right? So I got into Amazon. It's just funny how this market it's been a little bit difficult. Case in point, Amazon broke out on Friday. I got long this name, and I kind of just I had the right position size, because if I would have gotten into it too large, right, this candle on Friday may have shaken me out. Right. Inside day on Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday just blast off. But I wasn't really sweating it because I just had the right, appropriate position size. Same thing with Tesla, which I talked about a lot in yesterday's video. We're not really sweating Tesla too much, even though this continued to contribute a little bit more to the upside move today. Not really a big range today, but I made the mistake earlier in the week. Palo Alto was one of our stocks, stocks of the week. I did add this to the TTG trend portfolio, but I did not stay in it in my trading account. On this day, I kind of gotten shaken out of it. And again, what I talked about was, if you have the right position size, right, you could be a little bit more comfort. You can handle the bumps and the turns and the twists and the turns a little bit better. All right. And that's a real nice move, coming out and taking out that virgin point of control. This was also I mentioned this name like several places on Twitter. It was a Substack trade idea that I also issued. So really nice. Overall, the cyber stocks, we could take a look at a few of these names. So there's two cyber ETFs. I preferred this one, CIBR. But that's a heck of a green bar out above the spent the whole last couple of weeks consolidating, and bam, up to the upside. One name that I like out of this group too is a name that nobody talks about. Again, I like to talk about some of the names that nobody talks about, but look at this VRNS, right? This is also like a data type company. Not bad in here. Also, names like Pure Storage had a good day today, right? What's the other? NTAP is the other name in the space that also just continuing to grind higher. CrowdStrike is very close. No cigar today. It did not break out of its value area, but I think it's well, it did, and it didn't really get there. But same thing. Like, I added a position in CrowdStrike today, but enough of a position where or sized it appropriately where I'll try not to get shaken out of it, because this is a name that I was in CrowdStrike a couple of weeks ago, and I sold it before I think this moved down. I just kind of lightened up on it as a risk management trade. Basically, just lightening up on that name. Other names too. CyberArk has had a nice, has been making a nice move too. So, nice to see such good breadth in this group. And again, rotation out of the semi group and into software and cyber names. Now, looking at the semi ETF, this does not look bad, by the way. This is just sometimes what happens when names get really overbought. Look at how overbought the SMH ETF was, 79. So I wouldn't like throw in the towel with the semiconductors. I would be monitoring them and paying attention to them. I continue to we'll be watching Broadcom. But again, you have to be patient with some of these things. Let the maybe let this get back above its 5 period moving average. But I like the setup here in Broadcom. I don't think that the move is done in Broadcom. But again, it's okay for these things to consolidate. Let them, as we've said this week, let it shake the hot money out of this, right? And some of the weekends out of these names, and then they'll build again, right? That's kind of what built a bull market is. And by the way, look at the volume too. Let all this, this hot money, right? This is what I was referring to. Let all this dry up a little bit, right? That's too much volume, right? So, and of course, NVIDIA, we'll look at this name too. But again, nothing wrong. Like, let this name kind of just chill out, calm down a little bit. That's my opinion. Now, these names don't have to do that per se, but that's my thought, right? Because all it takes is one day of huge buying and this thing is good to go back up. I wanted to talk a little bit about tomorrow. Again, I'm just going to reiterate just in case you haven't seen my videos this week, but just keep in mind, you've got big things going on tomorrow. I don't have much edge in trying to predict some of these things tomorrow. Maybe you do, but I don't. For example, so we've got the PCE deflator tomorrow. The market seems like it has gotten over the inflation data. They are looking for a flat report for tomorrow, but it just doesn't seem like it's as important as it was a few months back. I think what's going to be more important than this inflation data tomorrow is all the rebalancing. So you're going to get the Russell rebalance. And when I say Russell rebalance again, everybody thinks IWM. But as I've illustrated in these videos throughout this week, there's more assets in things like IWF, right? That's Ida Wilson Frank, right? That's the large cap growth ETF, right? That has more assets tracking it than the small caps. Now, the small caps will be more volatile because they are small caps, but there's also a lot of rebalancing happening with large cap names tomorrow too. So that should shake things up. So you've got that going on, and then of course it's quarter end, month end, and you're going to get portfolio rebalancing going on too. So it's going to be that's going to be a very difficult day. I think the best thing that you can kind of come away with that is not so much to try to trade. Everybody wants to always, retail traders always want to try to figure out like really difficult puzzles, right? They think, oh, what's the trade going to be for tomorrow? Right? The trade is really to kind of sit on your hands and let the day go by and maybe wait for some things that look odd. For example, case in point, somebody had like I saw 10 million. If I go to this, I'll show you what I'm referring to. By the way, Nike down after hours. Um, if you go to the 5 minute chart from just a couple days ago, right, this is the nonsense that goes on. And this is why it's very difficult to know who's going to do what. The best thing that you could do is just kind of react to some of it. Look at somebody dumped 10 million shares. 10 million shares, all this stuff. Sorry, I'm going to be critical here for a minute. All this stuff that you always hear about, oh, it's a dark pool print. It's a dark pool print, right? Okay, 10 million shares sold, right? Do you think you want to follow that dark pool print? No, that was a big sale order, right? And it just shows you institutions are not always doing the smartest thing. In fact, this is dumb, right? And you could take so the moral of this is you could take advantage of some stupid institution having to sell a huge amount of shares on the close because why? Because they're always tied to the closing print, right? So somebody really exited pretty difficult. Now, again, it's so much better to realize, hey, somebody had to do this. That may be a good buying opportunity, right? They sold those shares at like $186. It's the stocks, Amazon is now at 197, right? So again, dark pool prints, and again, the reason why I illustrate some of the stuff is because I used to do this for a living, and I can tell you how stupid some institutions are, right? Doing trades like this, right? But if you're looking for an entry point, right? And why I'm illustrating this is because you're going to see these types of moves around the close tomorrow, right? You may be able to pick up something on the cheap where somebody is rotating out of one name and rotating into other one because they made a portfolio decision and they're trading too much on the close, right? That's how I would look for trades for tomorrow is to see if something, and same thing, like you may be in something that goes up huge. Take the money, put it in your pocket, sell some of it, right? Because all of it is tied to the close and they won't be back on Monday. Right? That's the deal with index rebalancing is that it's a one-time thing as well as portfolio rebalancing too. They will take that money, they will do that, and they will stretch it either to the upside or to the downside, and they won't be back on Monday, right? So you could take advantage if it happens in something that you're long by selling, or if it's something that you've been trying to get into and it sells off $2-3 after hours. Like Apple was a good example of that too, right? Index rebalance. Look at what this did last week, right? It sold off. It went all the way down to because of this XLK rebalance, all the way down to 207. Right, that was a gimme, right? To buy that was the low point. That was at 207. Look where the stock is now. It's at 214. All right. So that's mainly the trade that you want to look for is, be observant, watch what happens close to the close tomorrow. And that's it because there's not really a ton of edge trying to predict what some of these institutions are going to do. The best thing I think to do is to be a little bit more defensive and then realize once we get to July, it'll be the beginning of the month, and we're in a much stronger seasonal period. So hopefully there will be some good opportunities when we get there. Last but not least, if you are interested in a super, super special for the next 6 months, so we are going to be done with the first half of the year tomorrow. And if you are looking to kind of get involved in something new, and you could review my video yesterday about Tesla and how I plan out trades, right? We've got a really big discount that we're putting out for the second half of this year. It's ridiculous. I think it's like $500 or something for the second half of the year. And we're also throwing in free access to the MarketWebs indicator for 6 months so that you could really kind of try it. And also, if you have questions about it, you can ask me. There'll be on the job training in terms of if you have questions about how I use volume at price, right? It's another level up. I know some people have really gotten turned on to volume profile and they've gotten turned on to anchored VWAPs, right? Those things are great. But if you really want to up it a little bit more and be a little bit more sophisticated, right? You could look at the value area study that we've put together. Why is that more sophisticated? Because it's hands off, right? There's a value area for the week, for the month, for the year that comes into play into a lot of what we're doing. And there's no anchor, there's no arbitrary anchoring. Right? People do this all the time. They pick the one, oh, maybe if I anchor it from this month's low, maybe if I anchor it from the beginning of the year. Oh, maybe if I anchor the price from 2 months ago, then I'll get the price that I'm looking for. We don't do like that's the folly of that situation, or that indicator, in my opinion. And I've used anchor VWAPs. I know how it works. I used to trade with the VWAP algorithm for years as an institutional trader. Right? What you want to be doing is being very consistent with what you're doing, and that's what the value areas allow you to do. Right? There's no tinkering with that kind of thing. Right? It is what it is. We've got levels to trade against, and we go from there. All right, so that's the special. Where is this post? I sent this out last night. I'll also send it over the weekend, but it's there for you. Just go to scroll through my feed, and you'll be able to find it. Guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.